David, you've put out some decent teams in this competition so far. Big test for you tomorrow night against Airdrie. What are you expecting?
As just you've said, it's a big test. We know a little about Airdrie. We know the style that they play will be quite I'd hope, an entertaining game. I think both teams will try and play football in their own way, but I know that having watched them and know a little bit about their manager and what the way he sets his team out, it'll be, I think, an entertaining game. And one, we might have to spend a little bit of time without the ball at times because of the way they play, but hopefully they'll have the same feeling when we have the ball as well, and it'll be a case of who can be brave enough to go and make a difference at key moments.
Yeah, what have you made of Reece there? I mean, young manager, of course, taking over last season, great season last season, doing well in the Championship. He's doing pretty well, isn't he?
Yeah, listen, absolutely. And you want to see, it's always good to see young managers making their way in the game and not just going and doing the same as everybody else. He's trying to be different. He's trying to bring his own brand, his own style. And I say it's something that I think, he started his own that part of his career pretty well. Obviously, he tried to balance that, having playing at the same time. But I think recently he's taken himself out of the team. So, but listen, I know what I expect a certain style of football for them to play. But let's say we just need to focus on what we are and how we want to play our game and make sure we carry a threat, but obviously show that we can have control within the game as well at the same time.
I guess by knocking some of the calibre of teams out in the previous rounds, that must give your boys a bit of belief and confidence heading into this one.
I think it has to. I think this competition we've enjoyed. Clearly, we know that if we want to keep getting ourselves challenged against the higher level teams and never hit a Championship level team, then you want to keep winning. But that's not easy. We know that. We know it's a tough game. Airdrie's a team, I think they're sitting about mid-table just now in the Championship, but they're capable of beating most teams when they get it right on the day. I've seen a few of the games earlier in the season where they maybe started stronger, had a little bit of a dip recently. But from our point of view, we have an ever-changing squad when it comes to these games. It's not as if we run with the same team week in, week out. It's dependent on what the first team need. And obviously, the first team have got a game this Thursday that'll naturally take priority in any of these moments. But from our point of view, the group that we have, we know what their capabilities are. And it's up to us to try and make sure we reach our highest in terms of our potential within the game itself and make sure that, as I said, we carry a threat. And Airdrie know within the game that they'll have to defend. But we know equally at the same time, we have to get that balance right as well, because often it's the bit when you've got the ball, you become most vulnerable. So you have to try and make sure we've got that bit right.
Of course, Morton Line Way, and you played at Cappielow this season, David. How have you enjoyed playing there this term?
Well, obviously it's different. I enjoy going to different venues, and it's a grass pitch, which is important too, isn't it? It played well for us the last time. I think the other bit that's important too as well is obviously it's an open. You talk about the crowd. You talk about Airdrie potentially bringing a decent support as well, and I know that they're generally well followed when it comes to away games. Hopefully this will attract, get some attention, and fans will want to come and watch it from both sides, and that adds to the feeling for the young players as well, so they get that understanding of it's not just their parents and some family and friends that come to watch the game. It's people who don't know them but want to get to know them. It's people who put a little bit of demand and stress into the game, because that's part of the development in these games. And as a knockout game, of course, and it's something that ultimately it's about tomorrow night. It's about winning, but we'll try and do it in the right way if we can.
Yeah, I guess you'd urge the supporters to head along if they can do so. It must give the young boys a big lift. I've seen a bit of a crowd there for you.
Well, they did the last time. Obviously, last time it was the main stand. It was open, and there was, it looked and felt more like it was a competitive game. It was a game that was challenging because of the level of opposition that you're playing against as well. It's not, when you're playing against better level opposition, that naturally brings more interest, and that's obviously something that we're keen to be part of. So yeah, listen, hopefully Airdrie will bring a decent support. Hopefully it'll be a decent atmosphere within the game, and more importantly for us, our players individually show what their capabilities are, and their challenge is not just to press in front of the supporters, but hopefully the new first team management team as well, which is got to be at the forefront of their minds.
Have you got any injury concerns, any worries heading into this one?
Just the ones that have been, out for a little bit of time. Obviously, Zak's been out, Thompson, Shaq has been out as well. Jack Hartless has been out injured as well. So more of the longer term ones at the moment. So more recently, nothing. It's a case of you look at, there's been players moving between the first team squad as well. Ross McCallum, which has spent the early part of this season with the B team, but you've seen recently that he's started to get more impact within the first team. He's getting minutes, so obviously you look at that, and if there's a reason to lose a player from this squad, it's because he's starting to take himself into the management team in the first team, and he's been doing that. So like I said to you, now it's a challenge of the ones that are still in the group here at the moment, that if the manager comes to watch, he sees what players are capable of doing, what impact they can have within the game, and that's an opportunity to go and shine.
Yeah, the manager's certainly interested in the B team, isn't he, David? He's not afraid to throw young players in. That must be really refreshing for the young lads. And your conversations with the manager as well. How's it been since he arrived?
Well, it's a comment everybody's seen that I think it was if you're old enough, sorry, if you're good enough, then you'll be old enough. So the age is not necessarily his driving factor, it's the impact he can have within the game. His background has obviously been at different levels as well. He's worked within a similar sort of level that we've got just now in terms of the B team, and a kind of later academy structure. Mm-hmm. So his natural sort of instinct hopefully will take himself to these points. And as I said, we keep calling them young lads, but ultimately they're at an age and stage now where they want to go and fly and they want to go and show what they're capable of doing. It's a blank canvas. And sometimes you just never know when your opportunity comes. But if it's at the point where the manager sees you, you're under his eye, you're under his nose, and you go and perform, that might be the moment that can make a difference at this stage of their journey. I see Ross McCallum at the moment's been taking that, and that's got to be something that excites. These guys are still in the squad just now because hopefully it could be them next.
Yeah, and finally, I mean, young Zak, Jack, and Thompson. Any idea when they might be back, David? At all? You mentioned that they're sort of long-term injuries.
Well, it looks it'll be kind of nearer towards the start of the year in terms of coming back onto the pitch again. So, or kind of in January at some point. So they're all well on their way to the recovery. Their rehabilitation's kicked on. So it's just now being patient. I know the keenness is to get them back onto the pitch quickly, but we need to make sure we get that right. So we'll be led by the medical team and the sports science team as to when that is and make sure their body's ready to go again. But listen, unfortunately, sometimes in football these things happen. But fortunately, as I've said, long term, it's not too long term. It's enough that keeps them at the game at the moment, but not that far away. I look at like Darren McInally, who's back in the squad just now, who's experienced the toughest of 2 years in terms of picked up two long term injuries in terms of 8 and 9 months at a time. So I look at that. That's a proper long term injury. These other lads I'm talking about just now, they'll feel that way, but it's not really. Darren now's back in the squad and looks like he's never been away. So hopefully that'll continue with him as well.
Cheers, David. All the best for tomorrow.
Cheers, David.
David, we haven't seen quite such a high profile from your team since the club decided to step back from the Lowland League, and you made up your fixtures with obviously cup competitions, tournaments, challenge games, friendlies. How's that been working out for you and also for the players? Have you managed to develop a fixture list that's I wouldn't say straining, but stretching the guys?
Yes, short answer, Mark. There's a lot of ways we've been reflecting on the way we've built the programme this season. And actually, we've spoken about the cup competitions. They'll just take care of themselves, and that's reliant on you continue to win games and progress. And fortunately, up until this point so far, we've done that, and hopefully tomorrow night we add to that as well. But the games that we've taken on and if we look at from the football challenges, we've much more tactical challenges. At times we've spent much more time without the ball because of the level of opposition we've played. If you look at the two first teams that we've played in terms of OH Leuven from the Belgian top division and Breidablik, who are obviously from the Icelandic team and they're playing the European Conference League. So those two in isolation are completely unique opportunities for us to take on. Tough games, no question. Tough for the sort of tactical sort of level of game, but also physically, because that can influence the game if nothing else. We're working with younger players who are playing against men who have, and I'm not just talking about men, you can talk about the lower league, but we're talking about men that are playing at the top level of their own country, which means there's more of a physical difference again from those ones. The different English teams that we've played have brought different challenges. So they're easy from a football point that we can pick up on what we've learned in those ones, and it's easy to reflect back on that. And that's hopefully we want to get the guys to in terms of a tactical challenge. Physical ones are very easy because the numbers that we're hitting physically at times, I think there's one stat that we collated. There was one game that with over 40% their physical numbers had increased based on the tactical input of the game, the physical challenge that the opposition brought to us. And that itself was an easy reflection. But that doesn't mean it was a right football game. But when you look back at it and bring all the different data together and you start looking at it and kind of refresh kind of the light, it's been much better in that regard. It's not to say some of the games, obviously some games maybe not been as good as what we wanted, but not all of them. I think the vast majority have weighted towards what we needed, what we wanted. The movement of players has also been a boost for us as well. And again, I look at Ross McCallum, who would have been way beyond that of the Lowland League for this season because he'd spent 1.5 years, 2 years in there already. So if we'd done Lowland League again, he might have been in loan, and Ross might not be getting opportunities to get with the first team right now. So that in itself is another reason that we believe we've made the right decision at the moment for this season. We'll reflect it over the 6 months. We'll do that at the Christmas time. We'll reflect again at the end of the season to get absolute clarity in a lot of the data. But the early reflections we've taken so far, we believe it's been successful until this point.
And in terms, you were talking there about the alignment of the team with the first team, and obviously Philippe Clement, with his background in coaching youth and whatever since he stopped playing. Have you had much of a chance? I mean, I know he's playing 2 games a week. Have you had much of a chance to sit down with him and develop the philosophy? Are you clear on what he wants you to produce?
So clearly, you touched on there, Mark. At the moment, it's 100 mile an hour for the manager, and obviously finding his feet up there. The most important thing right now was to get to know the staff that exist there, the players clearly, because obviously that's the bit that are going to make a difference when it comes to game days. So we've had passing conversations. We will sit down very, very soon. But what we've got so far is principles. So it's not necessarily about playing a certain formation or a certain way. It's just about principles that he believes that he wants to see the first team play. And that's what we'll be driven by as well. So we'll make sure that the simple, easy additions to what we do, straightforward, and we've added that already to the group as well. So I watch him. I always watch the manager when it comes to games as well, and I watch his reactions to certain moments of the game. So you're always got to feed off. If it's not just a conversation, just feeding off what you see, what you're learning, what you're listening to, and making sure that we impart what we know from a staffing point of view, myself, Malky, and Graham, to make sure that message is consistent as best we possibly can. But I say at the moment, it's been driven by just principles of play. You've heard them talking obviously about the willingness and the ability to cover distances and make sure you're running hard against opposition as well, and you're fit in opposition. So that's something we've all worked by anyway, but it's certainly make sure that we reinforce these messages to make sure, again, not for necessarily the benefit of a Rangers B team, but more of a benefit for the individuals that are trying to get away from the B team to become a first team player, because ultimately that's about them.
Over the last 20 years, I've periodically kind of dipped in and dipped out with going back to the Inter-19 leagues and the reserves, and it all struck me that that Rangers at that level were playing good tactical football, but I often thought there was a little bit missing, that it wasn't real football. But when you're up against the Airdries of this world, that will bring the reality of what professional football is like to these guys. Has that been a help to you?
I think if you go to the Airdrie game in isolation you're describing just now, you're talking about a championship team. You're talking about a team that is also their job as well. So I go back, compared to the Lone League, it's not their job. This is the job for these Airdrie players. Who try to strive not only just to compete and do well within the championship, but individually again to try and go beyond that, I would be sure. If from their side there's also money involved, I'm sure there's a win bonus involved for them as well. You've got a number of fans that will come and watch the game, so that does bring different sort of edge to what that game is. But we enjoy that. Listen, we have to try and create our own edge within the players, and the edge that we've got within them is, if we can't get it done by the number of fans that turn up to the game or the environment that the game's in, then we have to keep reminding the players this is them competing for themselves, because ultimately they're trying to strive and compete to play for Rangers, which is not easy. It's not easy, and you need to go and find a way to make sure that you separate yourself from the group. Because whilst they're in a B team group just now, you've maybe got another 15, 16 players. They're not going to be together forever. They'll be together for the next foreseeable. Maybe it could be 6 months, it could be another year, maybe just a little bit longer than that. But ultimately, they'll all go their own way. And they need to find a way to make sure if it's the one that's going to get to the first team, then they have to find a way to separate themselves from the rest of the group, whether it be how they train, what they do extra beyond the training pitch, how they live, all the different bits that adds up to being a complete player. It isn't just what you do in a match day in 90 minutes that you see tomorrow night. There's a lot more to it than that, and that's the constant message. It never changes. And we have to continue to try and make sure we press that towards them.
So tomorrow night, prices start at a £5 for concession children, £10 for adults. Get a few minutes here just to say to people, if they haven't been to a B team game recently, what can they expect? Give us your promo.
I think the biggest bit you've got to expect is I'm pushing it on the players. I'm pushing it on them, because ultimately you see the players that we have. There's some that are going to play tomorrow night that have been dipped into the first team. They've had that opportunity. You look at John Feckle, Cole McKinnon, Aaron Lyle. They've all been involved in the first team at different points, and they're at that age where they're trying to get beyond that. So I would like to think if they come to watch us tomorrow night, they'll see these lads with hunger, a real drive, a real edge to again go and stand out within a game against a team that are a championship team. I've obviously spoken about Cole McKinnon there, who you'll speak to very shortly as well. And Cole has a championship experience. He knows what it looks like. He knows what it feels like. So lads like that who've had that feeling, that experience, I would look to, for them to try and drive what not necessarily what we do with the ball, but the feeling of what we need to look at when you don't have the ball, the difference, the getting back to the cover, the running away from the opposition to try and get to a point where you can make a difference in the attacking box. And ultimately, what off the back end of that is a quality, because I do believe that the lads that we've got in the group tomorrow night have got a quality to go make sure when we have the ball, we've got a difference within the game.